The Soviets built strong, muscular bodies during a time when a full stomach was a luxury most could not afford. They didn't rely on expensive diets, supplements, or high-protein trends. Instead, they used a handful of cheap, everyday foods that quietly supported testosterone and muscle growth. After World War II, the Soviets weren't just struggling, they were barely getting any food. Like in 1947, around 62 million people were relying on the government just to get basic bread. 62 million people. Just imagine the entire population of the UK needing to rely on the government for bread. Sounds like hard times if you ask me. But even in that situation, they still had a handful of cheap foods always in their diet. And guess what? Those exact foods turned out to be the ones that actually built muscle and kept testosterone high. I'm going to bring you through the top 4 foods and then reveal the exact cost for you. Let's start with food number 1, buckwheat. It was a peasant food. It was cheap, it kept you full, and was always available. It cost less than 1 rubles per kilogram, around 80 cents in the US back then. Soviet workers ate it as morning porridge alongside beef stew at dinner. Now, nothing about that sounds impressive, right? So let me tell you something about it that might make you want it in your breakfast tomorrow. Buckwheat is a complete protein, which means it contains all 9 essential amino acids, which is something your body needs to build and repair muscle. Most grains miss at least one, but buckwheat had all of them. Your body has a biological switch that decides whether it's building muscle or not. It's called the mTOR pathway. Imagine it as the trigger that starts the whole muscle building process. Buckwheat contains 3 times more arginine than casein protein, and arginine is what actually hits that trigger. You might be thinking, does this really do much for building testosterone? Well, yeah, it helps because getting enough protein plays a role. Just don't expect anything crazy from it, but it's a start. But the next thing they ate actually did much more for their testosterone levels. Eggs. The Soviets fried them, boiled them, and scrambled them. And when fresh eggs started disappearing during the war, the government actually had powdered eggs shipped all the way from the United States. They wanted eggs so badly, they were bringing in a powdered version from across the ocean. But why were they so committed to eggs? Well, a university study to answer that. Researchers split men into 2 groups after exercise. One group ate whole eggs and the other group ate egg whites. The whole egg group saw testosterone increase by 2.4 nanograms per millimeter. The egg white group only 0.7. And the difference was just the yolk. And I know some of you avoid it, but I love it. Honestly, if you eat eggs, skipping the yolk doesn't make much sense. Because the yolk contains cholesterol, and cholesterol is literally the raw material your body uses to make testosterone. And on top of that, the zinc in egg block prolactin, the hormone that actively suppresses testosterone production. And whole eggs stimulate muscle protein synthesis 40% more than egg whites alone. That's why eggs became a staple in the Soviet diet. And to be fair, they weren't that expensive either. A pack of 12 eggs cost around 1 ruble, roughly around $1. Pretty affordable, right? But here's the thing about the Soviets. They knew exactly what they were eating and exactly how much. Every gram counted, every ruble counted, nothing was guessed. That precision is a big part of why the system worked. Most men today eat in the right direction and still see nothing change. The training is there, the effort is there, the intention is there, but the numbers stay invisible. And invisible numbers don't move the needle. I mean, you can eat eggs every morning, buckwheat every afternoon, and still make zero progress if you have no idea what those meals actually add up to by the end of the day. And the Soviets would wish that they had this tool I'm talking about today, Cal AI. You take a photo of your meal and it calculates your calories and macros instantly. No typing or searching through databases, no estimating portion sizes in your head. Just point your phone at your plate and the full breakdown is there in seconds. Protein, carbs, fats, total calories, everything you need to know. It does not matter if it's a home-cooked meal, a restaurant plate, or something you threw together from whatever was in the fridge. Just one photo and you're done. From my own experience, the accuracy is genuinely crazy. The Soviets would have been unstoppable if they had this. One thing I always double check is anything the camera cannot physically see, like cooking oil or sauce you added during prep. For those, I pull up the food database and I find it in a few taps to add it in. The process takes about 15 seconds and it's even faster with the barcode scanner. Any product with a label, you can scan it and it will log it instantly. And that matters more than people realize because the moment tracking gets slow or inconvenient, most people stop doing it. And the barcode scanner removes that excuse completely. Now the Soviets tracked everything by necessity because they had no other choice. You have a phone in your pocket and a tool that does it in seconds. CalAI was kind enough to let me hook you guys up with a 3-day free trial version by using code BARON, BARON. Link is in the description. Download CalAI and come closer to your dream body. Now we have to talk about food number 3. That is the herring. In the final years of the Soviet Union, people remember 2 things about grocery stores: long lines and walls of canned fish. It became such a permanent fixture in Soviet life that they're now considered a literal symbol of the era. But not because everyone loved them, but because there was nothing else. Imagine walking into a store and the only thing left every single time is a wall of canned fish. It was only for around 0.50 rubles, which is about 50 to 60 cents. But it turns out their worst option wasn't even that bad. Well, it actually tasted horrible, but for your body, it has a lot of benefits. And before I get into all the nutrition numbers, there's one thing about herring that most people don't even realize. There's a specific nutrient in herring that Harvard researchers have actually linked to testosterone level increases. And it's not something most people would expect from fish. It's vitamin D. And the crazy thing is that just a small 3-ounce serving of herring gives you around 150% of your daily vitamin D needs. It's like getting more than a day's worth of sunshine in just one small piece of fish, which really shows you how incredibly rich vitamin D in herring actually is. And what's really interesting is Harvard found that guys with higher vitamin D levels also tend to have higher testosterone. And then on top of that, you got a lot of omega-3s too, which is the fats your joints, your heart, and even your hormones actually rely on. And it doesn't stop there. Scientists performed a test. The ones who ate more fish consistently had higher testosterone levels overall. Plus, for muscle, you're getting around 15 grams of protein in just a small serving. So yeah, it's doing a lot more than people give credit for. And it didn't cost them much. Cheaper than salmon, more nutritious than tuna across the board, but here's where most people get stuck. How do you actually eat this stuff without getting bored or messing it up or throwing up because it tastes so disgusting? Which right after food number 4, I'll tell you about. Food number 4 is the cottage cheese. In the Soviet Union, cottage cheese was basically kids' food. The Russians called it tvorog. They gave this stuff to children from the time they were babies. And it was cheap too, about 0.9 rupees or about $1 to $2 per kilogram. On weekends, families would even turn it into fried pancakes. The Soviets ate this at a very specific time, usually in the evening, quickly with black bread before bed. Not because they knew the science, but because it was cheap, easy, and kept you full. But the science behind it is actually perfect for increasing testosterone and building muscles. Because 1 cup of cottage cheese has 28 grams of protein, the dominant protein in casein. Unlike whey, which spikes fast and drops fast, casein releases amino acids slowly, over 6 to 8 hours, which is exactly why it's so useful before bed. So when you're asleep, your muscles are still getting fed, still repairing, and still building instead of breaking down. That's what people mean when they talk about staying in an anabolic state overnight. And honestly, if you want to try it the old school way, make some yourself. All you need is cottage cheese, eggs, flour, and a little sugar. Try it out and tell me in the comments how it tastes because I personally love it, even though I can't pronounce it. And with that, we've covered all 4 cheap foods. But as you can imagine, Soviets didn't just eat the individual foods. Even in hard times, they had proper meals, not just cheese before bed. So let me tell you about their day of eating so you can replicate it. The Soviet philosophy was simple. Eat big in the morning because you never really knew what the rest of the day was going to look like. It could be something like buckwheat porridge or eggs with fried sausage. And on the weekends, sometimes even tvorog pancakes. They usually have it with black tea or coffee with a little milk. And there was a reason this worked so well. Right from the start of the day, the eggs gave you zinc and cholesterol, while the buckwheat added complete protein and steady energy to keep you going. After that, lunch usually happened at the work canteen. It was often a full 3-course meal, soup first, then the main dish with fish or meat served alongside kasha or mashed potatoes. And don't forget the sauerkraut salad on the side. And that cabbage or sauerkraut actually did more than just fill the plate. It contains anti-estrogenic phytochemicals, which can help lower estrogen levels in the body. And when estrogen stays lower, testosterone tends to stay higher. Of course, they weren't eating it for that reason back then. It was simply one of the cheapest and most available vegetables they had, but it worked. Around 4 or 5 p.m., they usually have kefir, or what the Soviets called poludnik. It was basically their version of an afternoon snack. It is rich in zinc and vitamin K, both of which are closely linked to healthy testosterone production. Now, kefir is rich in zinc and vitamin K2, both of which are closely linked to healthy testosterone production. On top of that, probiotics help your body absorb more nutrients from everything else you've eaten throughout the day. Then came dinner at home. Canned herring with bread, cabbage soup, and buckwheat with stewed beef when they could get it, and torvog before bed. Now step back and look at the full day. Cholesterol and zinc in the morning, omega-3s and anti-estrogenic vegetables at lunch, slow-release casein protein at night. It's a structured eating plan. But that brings us to the most important question, is this diet still affordable today? Well, back then in the Soviet Union, this 3-course meal cost about 40 rubles, around 45 cents for the entire meal. And if you look at those same foods today, well, they're still very affordable. Eggs are usually around 50 cents each, canned herring costs about $2 to $4, kefir is around $4 to $6 for a 32-ounce bottle, cottage cheese sits around $4 per pound, and buckwheat is roughly around $3 per pound. So if you build your whole day around this breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it still only costs around $12, which is less than what most people spend on a single fast food meal. In fact, a lot of us spend more on one tub of pre-workout than the Soviets spent on a full week of real, nutrient-dense foods. So, if your goal is to naturally support testosterone levels and build muscle without spending a fortune, this is honestly a diet worth trying. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.